This is the neighborhood I've chosen for this build, Potter's Spay. And I've decided this is going to be a tiny home, but it's not going to be a micro home. I was just going to see how big it ends up being, but it still ends up being under the 100 tile requirement for tiny home residential. I always like to start with the front of the house because I think that sets the tone for the design of the house. And I really wanted this house to have a patio or a porch. Because it is a tiny home, I like to give my Sims that outdoor space so it doesn't feel as small. And here I am trying to figure out the layout. It's pretty shallow in the beginning, but I expand it later on. Always have to make a bathroom. Here, this is where I was thinking I'm going to put the bedroom. I always like to make a bigger bedroom for my Sims because I always end up putting things in there. And I think this is the house that I'll use for my Rags to Riches 100 Baby Sim Challenge. So, it's going to be a starter home for this challenge, which is why I really tried to keep it under that 20,000 simoleon figure so I could buy it straight out of Create a Sim without any cheats. And here, let's try to figure out where to make the opening for the porch. And I couldn't really decide how big I wanted it. I wanted a double wide, but then I just didn't like how it vibed with the front, and because it is a smaller house, I just made it a one tile opening. I really wanted a double door, because I usually do double doors for my homes, but since it is a tiny house, I went with a one door tile. Window placement. I don't really like putting down windows, but I think light's very important in any build. I think if I use the room tool to put my windows in, it just puts way too many, so I try to place them myself. The kitchen took me forever. I was trying to find a counter that looked nice but still fit in the budget. I was thinking about creating the bar seating, but I ended up scrapping that idea because of the space. But I think the one that I created, the kitchen I created later on, is a lot more functional for Sims. I hate the color of that first one, the first oven stove combo, but so that made me choose the white one. Since this is a starter home, I always like to add windows above my sinks. I think it just gives that homey appeal. I tried to figure out if I could do overhead cabinetry, but there wasn't one that matched super well, so I just scrapped that idea, even though in a real tiny house you should have above the counter space, but I don't like to mix cabinet styles. That coloring's pretty close. I was thinking maybe I'll do a statement cabinet, but I wasn't feeling it. I was considering that blue, and you'll see that I incorporated a lot of blue in the rest of the build, but I just like the look of the kitchen without the overhead cabinetry. The ugly fridge. See, this is where I start to incorporate the blue tiling, and I ended up changing my mind. And here was my struggle, because I wanted to have enough seating for my Sims, but still have it a functional space. And I'm trying to see if I can put the dining room area somewhere else. And I tried thinking if I can move the kitchen, make it more open. But I just didn't like the feel of that. So the kitchen ends up going back in its original section, which you'll see right now. There we go. And then I decided to go for more of an open layout and scrap the bar idea. And I always like to keep my ovens away from any other expensive items, because if there is a fire, especially with these cheaper ovens, then it's less that my sim has to replace. Usually in my builds I like to stick to one color palette, so here's me trying to incorporate some neutrals. I ended up liking how those chairs worked. And I think the big part of a tiny house is you just have to play with the walls to see what floor plan is the most functional. And I like to put those doors back to back because then it gives me more space in the kitchen. Which, especially if this is a 100 baby sim challenge, then I'll need some room in the kitchen. I always make my bathroom super basic. Pedestal sink because that was the least expensive option. That shower's cool, but I just like this contained nature of that shower that I just put in. 90% of the times I'll use a custom content mirror because I think the mirrors that the Sims get are super small. Tile in the bathroom, very basic choice. This was sort of a no fuss tiny build, so I just made it super neutral and I can change it around later on. Decided to bump up that bedroom because I really wanted a double bed in here. In The Sims, I usually go for a plain couch like that or a very ornate one. So there's a bunch of couches, you can see the stars that I haven't even used. I always try to tie a paint color to something in the items that I build, or the items that I place, or I usually go for neutrals with a trim. I just love the look of crown molding. So 90% of my wallpapers or wall choices is a color with white trim. I decided to take that window away since there was a decent amount of lighting and I wanted that extra wall space. And then this is the paint that I ended up keeping for the house. Put that window down. I noticed that at the beginning of the build when I was recording this voiceover, but I'm glad I fixed it. Better late than never. I hate building rows. But hopefully I'll get better at them as I do them more. Can't forget to paint the tops of your roofs. And I believe I also went for a trim once I finished. Here I am still struggling with this roof. And at the end you'll see that I have, oh, there's the trim. At the end I have to fix the roof again. I think the first trim I picked was way too much for this size of house. I wish we had more options for outdoor tiling. So I always have a struggle picking the one that I think goes with the vibe of the house the most. Since this is a starter home, I decided for a more concrete aesthetic, because it wasn't super fancy. All my choices are kept in check by the budget I put for this build. I really like this flooring. I don't think I've used that flooring before until this house. There I changed the lighting so I could see how the lighting I put in actually works. I downloaded those custom content cam lights, and they're my go-to lighting for every build, because I don't think we have a lot of good lighting options overhead, ceiling lights, so I just do the basic can lights because that's what I have in my house too, and I like that, because it just gives ample light, and it doesn't distract from gameplay. Move objects, #1 cheat. I also usually don't do landscaping, so then my houses look bare, but I decided I'm going to try to do more landscaping now. Here I was trying to figure out what to put in with the extra space we have by the window. So I put a little desk in here because I wanted to use that space that was just in front of the window, and I didn't buy a computer or TV at this point because I was looking at that budget and I still wanted it to be easily purchasable. I still wanted my Sims to have funds to get their creative pursuits and money-making pursuits. I like the space saving of this, but I was considering it. I didn't add it because I just don't like that it can kill your Sims, and it's sort of a pain to put out and back in. And I really wanted a double bed because I was thinking I'd do 2 Sims as parents instead of a single mom or a single dad. So I wanted a double bed. I do like a lot of the stuff from Tiny Living. I just think it's more expensive than it should be. I really like this shelving. I was trying to make it in a functional way. I still really wanted a bookcase because that is important for The Sims if you want a skill build. And I like that I did this TV option instead of the pre-made Tiny Living because it was a lot less expensive than the built-in cabinetry, and it still gave me the functionality that I wanted, and I had room to put a little potted plant. I like to keep my windows below the trim. I don't really like when it's intersecting the trim, but in the case of that window by the sink, because it's a one-off window, I let it intersect with the trim. And here I am, trying to figure out what else needs to be put in this build. A dresser, because I really like to style my Sims when we have custom content on. Trying to figure out how to match some furniture. I really do miss in The Sims 3 how you could match all the woods together to one color. I really do miss that, because it just drives me a little crazy not to have matching items. And then here I'm looking to see if there's anything else I should add. Checking out the front of the house. And then I notice the little roof mishap. And that's because I bumped out the bedroom after I did the roof. Trying to decide if I should leave that overhang. I decided to bump up the bathroom to just make it a nice square, rectangle. And then at 85 tiles out of 100 for this tier of tiny house, so I still have room when I do need to expand, but I decided this was a good size for now. Can't forget a trash can, although I did forget to put one outside, which I'll have to do once I move some Sims in. I do like that futuristic trash can, because you do get money for using it. So that's a good rags to riches item. Because I think a lot of times it could cover the cost of the food that you do make. Or even make you money. I'm not sure about making you money, but I think it does cover the cost of a plate when you put it in. Looking at the outside, I know that left side is a little bland window-wise, but I just have a lot of things on that side. And because it is the side of the house, I thought it was fine just to leave it that way. We have more space to the right of the lot and to the back of the lot, so I decided to keep that. And not all houses have evenly placed windows on the side. Okay, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.